Brandon Turner and David Greene, I'm speaking directly to you. We have created a new BRRRR method, and it is far better than your outdated 1999 or 2019 BRRRR method that you're preaching on BiggerPockets. This is the 0 to 100 BRRRR method. Take a listen.
The BRRRR method is back in 2026. Here's why and how. BiggerPockets by the way, who the hell is BiggerPockets? Right? They raved about BRRRR for years. BRRRR. BRRRR was the way people built wealth. They recycled cash, but everybody's been saying it was dead. But now it's back. What do you guys think? First of all, what is BRRRR, Mitch? And I know you're going to take credit for the BRRRR concept because that's what you do.
I actually made it up. I actually coined the term. I coined the term so long ago, though. I can't quite remember what the R stands for.
The BRRRR method it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say just now. So actually, I mean, if you think about it, that's all we do with larger properties, except for we take advantage of forced depreciation. We take advantage of all the tax, all the cash flow. I mean, we don't call it BRRRR, but basically that's what we're doing. I mean, the benefit of the BRRRR method, I think, is you're able to make things better, make the asset better, and then take out cash, tax-free money and go.
Well, you take out the money you put into it. You put money in, you improve the asset, you refinance.
But not technically the same money. It's debt you take out, therefore it's not tax.
Yeah, you refinance, you pull your cash out, maybe some more cash out, tax-free. You hold the asset, and then you go do it again and again. And you're right. I think BRRRR has been tough, even in the commercial world. Like we purchased properties several years ago, and the plan was to refinance and return the lion's share of the capital back to our investors, and we couldn't because rates were in the 7s, right? And the rates do affect that. They're saying, at least on the single family market, rates are down in the 5s. Now we're also seeing, we have a few properties that just got one closed and one's in contract about ready to close, where per our pro forma, we can return most of the capital back and still hold the asset and pay cash flow to our investors. So maybe it is back for the single family homes and the larger properties.
So can we slow this down for 1 second?
Slow down for Mitch.
I'm saying for our listeners though, can somebody just you listed all the R's, Gabe, but then Travis, you went on this rant. It made no sense at all. It's like everyone's been drinking before the podcast. What I'm saying is slow down, and can you just define what does BRRRR like fundamentally mean? Okay, you find this undervalued asset, you're gonna go buy it, and then what? Can you just explain that?
Look, I'll slow it down. First of all, the reason this worked previously because we had historically low interest rates. So it was fairly easy to buy a property. Labor costs were less costly than they were today. So you could actually rehab a property. You could rent it out for more than what your payment was. And then mortgage rates continued to stay low. And cap rates were being compressed. So then it was easy to refinance.
It was the perfect environment.
It was the perfect environment for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat until it wasn't. I think the biggest reason it wasn't is because of our interest rate jump. But here's the thing. I don't love the BRRRR method. Like that's kind of, you have to have somewhat of a perfect market. I don't like the rehab part at all. Like, I mean,
why is that?
I think because look, like rehab first, I don't like big projects. I don't like capital intensive projects. I love to buy real estate that makes financial sense, rent it out, refinance when the market allows, and repeat that. What I see a lot of people, like when it was a perfect market to do this, anybody could buy a property on or off market at almost whatever price, not even getting a great deal. The listed property at market price, they would rehab the property, they would rent it out for almost no cash flow, but it would appraise out, and interest rates were still low and cap rates were being compressed, so it appraised out, and they were either able to pull cash out or not and get long-term fixed debt and then go do it again.
If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and want to come and hang out with us, as well as other members who are scaling in cash flow real estate, you've got to check out our Elite Mastermind. Inside, we've got investors who own hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate and are doing amazing things. We'd love for you to come join us. Click the link below.
Yeah, but you can rehab, and our definition of rehab and what Mitch and I do at Katie isn't rehabbing physically.
It's reposition. That's the word. It's not rehab.
It's rehabbing the net operating income. It's rehabbing the economic.
Well, then we should change the name. We should take this over because it really is like that's the first thing I thought about too is like a lazy reposition. You buy on commercial property, you buy, reposition, rent, refinance, repeat. You can do that regardless of the interest rate environment, regardless and without having to spend a bunch of capital to do it. The BRRRR method is really focused on single family homes, which, to me, flipping a home or a single family home, like it's going to be really hard to scale. Doing the BRRRR method, you can only do it so many times in a perfect market.
Well, I think a lot of times the BRRRR method, as it was defined, was applied to single family homes. It was applied to not necessarily commercial assets. When you move into the commercial world, though, what I think is interesting is that reposition means a couple things. It's physical, which could be sort of rehab related, right? Like you're redoing roads and lights and sewer systems, all those things that are sort of physical, but it's also financial. A financial reposition on a property can be extremely profitable. You can force appreciate by pushing up revenue, lowering expenses, and operating it in a more efficient way. And by buying commercial, you can reposition, add a lot of value, and then you go for your refinance. And I think that's what you're getting at is like the rehab leaves out the financial reposition. And in commercial, you can do that. And we do that a lot. Like, I mean, a good example is like we've taken over properties in the past where it's like they have an on-site manager, then they have this off-site manager, so it's getting paid like 60 grand per year. A $60,000 reduction in expenses on a 7 cap is $60,000 times 14. That's how much you've pushed that property value just by tweaking one thing on the financials. So I love the reposition, in place of the rehab.
Okay, we're trademarking reposition.
It's such a fucking better BRRRR because it's like that exact example, that 60,000. I have a $60,000 example too, which ended up, equating to a huge increase of equity, right? And I shared this example before. I bought my first mobile home park for $1.3 million. I did a small rent raise. 6 months later, build back utilities. So my tenants, it's a small impact, but it's 40 tenants. They're still paying below market rent. But that added $60,000 to the NOI. Or I'm sorry, $30,000 to the NOI, not 60. It was about 15,000 on the rent bump total and about 15,000 billing back utilities. It added it's a $30,000 example, not a 60. But that $1.3 million property, I didn't have to go rehab it. I didn't have to get a bunch of rehab money. I repositioned it. It was a lazy reposition. It was a notice to tenants of a small rent increase. 6 months later, small utility bill back. I wasn't gouging their rent. They're still paying below market because I bought it grossly below market rent. But that $30,000 added to the NOI increased the value significantly. That $1.3 million property appraised out 2 years later at $2.775. And I've shared this example before. I pulled out about $800,000 tax-free, lowered my interest rate by half because I had originally borrowed with hard money, and then was able to go redeploy that tax-free money into a large triple net commercial portfolio of properties that returns me a six-figure cash flow every year, right? And so like that reposition, I would do that all day long. I wouldn't want to buy a single family house, borrow to then do the renovations or pay out of pocket to do the renovations, and then just hope that the market at the time is still perfect enough for me to refinance, get the appraisal that I need, and then go refinance and do it again.
Well, see, people think you're buying a small single family house and the rehab is a lot less risky than a financial reposition of a larger asset. I think the difference between a reposition is the end game pretty clearly. Like we bought a mobile home park where we just passed $70 per month utilities. It raised the value of the asset by 700 grand. We knew we were like 99% certain we can do that. There were not a lot of variables. When you're rehabbing something, especially these days, dude, there's so many variables. There's time variables, there's cost variables, there's cost overruns, there's shit they find in the walls that they didn't know, and there's change orders. Yeah, with a reposition, it's like, I know that I can pass utilities and raise rents over 3 years. I know I can take these expenses out, and I know my property is going to be worth $1.5 million more, period.
But by the way, increasing, for people listening to this, it's like, yeah, you go increase the rent, you pass utilities, you make it more efficient. We have an obligation as property owners, asset owners, to bring rents to market. The reason market rents work is when there's issues at the property. when there's big capex expenses, the sewer pipe goes out, the septic goes out, there's problems with the well, you're able to go reinvest. We see it all the time where people think it's altruistic to keep rents low. And guess what? That's who we buy from, because they keep rents low and the renters are like, oh, well, this is nice. My rents are half of market. But guess what happens? There's no reinvestment into the community. There's no upgrades to roads, amenities, security, systems. We see it all the time. And so for me, market rates exist for a reason. It gives the entrepreneur an opportunity to go make a profit in this capitalistic market, but also invest back when you need to, or fix systems. So I think there's this, sometimes there's probably not our listeners, but there's this debate like, well, you're increasing rent. Well, the alternative, like say you have a store and you buy a bag of chips for $4 and you sell it for $4.50. Yeah, well, you're gonna have shitty, dirty bathrooms. Like you're gonna have a terrible place that's unprofitable, and some people are going to enjoy buying a bag of chips for $4.50. You bring the chips to $6 or $7, and now you can offer a really, really nice store or community, for mobile home. That's what we buy at mobile home parks. But the point is, it's a win-win, because you're able to go, we have stuff happen to our properties all the time. We go fix it because we can, because it's profitable. It's still profitable to us to go fix it. And so I think there's an obligation, and people don't realize there's an obligation to bring rents toward market, because when those problems do arise, it's your responsibility to fix those.